Hi everyone, this is Cristina, author of the Confused Dudes book series, and I'm here with 6 ways that you can scare your reader. So if you're a writer or a creative person in general and you want to give an attempt at a spooky story, you can definitely check this out. Also, if you're a teacher, this might be something that you can play for your students if they are in the midst of the writing process. So my first tip is to use imagery to create an intriguing setting or atmosphere. Where you're going to have your story set is a really crucial element, and it's something that you can do in the pre-planning phase of writing. I'm definitely a firm believer in jotting down notes. I used to write down notes before I wrote anything, whether an essay for school or a story. Even if they were super sloppy and I was the only person who could read them, they really helped me follow a clear path and give myself some direction when putting the pen to paper. So some settings you could choose are, just for example, an abandoned house. So maybe you have characters who are out exploring, looking to party, and they come across a house that no one lives in, which of course is a perfect location for something horrible happening. The woods is another setting. We've seen the woods a lot in movies as well. Just that whole feel of getting lost, not knowing what's around you, not knowing what animals are around you. Definitely give a spooky vibe. The next setting could be a basement. So basements tend to make a lot of weird noises. Maybe you have pipes that creak down there. I know when I was growing up, the basement and the attic were probably the 2 parts of my house that I found the creepiest. The next suggestion I have is a fun house. Sometimes a carnival, maybe a fun house that has people working at it that are just a little too mysterious or odd or weird, can give a setting that gives off that ominous feel and creates a feeling of intrigue for your reader. Here's some possible options, and of course, there are millions more that you could use when writing a creepy story. So the first one is the mysterious newcomer. So someone who is new to the town or the school and just has a lot of intrigue about them. And where there's intrigue, a lot of times there might be rumors or secrets that lead people to just really ponder what could be lying underneath the surface. The next one is the too perfect neighbor. So this can be a fun one. And the too perfect neighbor could be someone who moves in and doesn't seem villainous or terrible. They actually seem too good to be true. And maybe to the extent that it leads you to believe they are, in fact, too good to be true. The next one could be a new teacher. So this might be really fun. If you are a student yourself, you could even include your classmates in this story and have your current teacher, let's say, go off on some type of leave, and a new teacher comes into the classroom and just immediately creates a feeling of unease. So that could be really fun. You could even make yourself a character in the story. And the last one is a good old monster. One of my favorite works is the Gothic masterpiece Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, which utilizes a creature. You also could use a vampire, a gargoyle, just any type of monster that just that entity in itself is something that arouses fear in the reader. The next tip is to use repetition to slow down the pace of a story. We can see this done really expertly in stories such as The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, where Poe utilizes words various times consecutively in order to draw out the story and effectively keep us in suspense. Think of it as the equivalent to watching a movie and you have a character opening a door, but the time it takes for him or her to open the door is really, really long and exaggerated, and it just keeps us more in that heightened feeling of suspense. You can also think of it if you're watching a TV show and suddenly it cuts to a commercial. That commercial put at a strategic part is a way to include a cliffhanger. So using words like slowly 3 times in a row, so-and-so crept closer, closer, closer. Maybe you're using the word creep over and over, but doing so is a way to draw out the story and keep the reader on the edge of his or her seat as they're reading. My next tip is to use imagery to create an ominous atmosphere. So just like before, we talked about using imagery to establish a setting that makes sense and is strategic for the genre that you're writing about. You can also add another layer with imagery in order to create an atmosphere, be it through weather or just more details in order to really hone in on that type of atmosphere you are trying to create. So you could absolutely have a story where suddenly it starts raining outside. There's lightning, there's thunder. We definitely see that in movies as well. You could have the location that characters are in be abandoned. Sometimes they're those locations where characters feel like I shouldn't be here, leads to that perfect opportunity for a writer to create a specific reason why there is danger ahead and they absolutely should not be in this location. Losing service is another really popular one that we do see in movies, but remember that behind that movie, there's someone who is writing that script and who is strategically coming up with something in order to make the atmosphere creepier and more fitting for the vibe they are going for. So of course, if no one can use their cell phone and no one can get help, that's just the perfect setting for a spooky story. The next piece of information I have is somewhere that's dilapidated. If you are in a cabin that is run down and things are kind of squeaky, it definitely makes for a better spooky setting than a cabin that is freshly painted and brand new and perfect on a bright sunny day. The fifth tip I have is to keep your reader guessing. I remember as a kid, I used to love the Goosebumps series by R.L. Stine. And one thing that really got me so engrossed in the book was the feeling that I never knew who the villain was. I was always guessing, and each page I turned sometimes led me to a different opinion. And that was just such an amazing element that I remembered about his stories. So you can mimic that process as well. Some things you can do are give misleading clues to your reader. Maybe you want to make it seem like it could be character A, but truly your villain is character B. Hidden motives or secrets is another really fun one. So possibly towards the middle or the end of the story, maybe we find out that there is a reason why one character actually wants to get revenge on another character, and that would leave open that whole idea for having a motive that we wouldn't know about that would lead this particular person to be villainous. My last tip is to use onomatopoeia to create a jump scare in your writing. Now, if you think about a jump scare in a movie, it's a lot more difficult to actually replicate that in a text. But what you can do is use onomatopoeia strategically in order to create those kind of big or sudden or surprising moments. Boom, crash, creak, a good old scream can all be used to increase tension. Also, if you are formatting your story, you can actually add your creativity to that as well. If you have a character turn a page and maybe all that's on that page is boom, it can be surprising enough to maybe not actually make your reader jump out of their seat, but give them that feeling of surprise and intensity. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please subscribe for more fun, creative, and spooky content. Have an awesome night and stay spooky.